story from the front page of the Los Angeles Times, and what's interesting is that it pretty much mirrors the phone calls we got when I did a show where I asked African Americans to call in here. And we talked on the air about the success rate of African Americans and whether it has to do with racism or whether there are other factors involved. Now, we just did this show, and imagine my surprise when I saw the front page of the Los Angeles Times, and the headline said this: blacks divide along class lines. And the subheader said, many fault individuals, not racism, for lack of success, a poll finds. And isn't that fascinating? It really is very much like what the callers were saying when we did that show. Here's the story from the Los Angeles Times. A majority of black Americans blame individual failings, not racial prejudice, for the lack of economic progress by lower-income African Americans, according to a survey. It's a significant change in attitudes from the early 1990s. At the same time, black college graduates say the values of middle-class African Americans are more closely aligned with those of middle-class whites than those of lower-income blacks. This is from a poll by the nonpartisan Pew Research Center. And 40% of those surveyed said African Americans could no longer be viewed as a single community. You know that phrase that drives me insane, the black community. Everybody in the black community. Well, that group is absolutely right. There really is no black community. There are communities. They are geographical areas. There is no gay community. There is no black community. Come on, stop, please. That's a term used by the rabble-rousers and the pressure groups to make you feel like everybody agrees on something that everybody doesn't agree on. The report said that in 1994, 60% of African Americans believed racial prejudice was the main thing keeping blacks from succeeding economically. Only 33% blamed the individual back in 1994. Though views have shifted over time on this issue, this was the first time that a majority of blacks, 53%, said individuals were responsible for their own condition. They're right. At the same time, the survey found that most blacks believe racial prejudice was still a widespread problem in America. I agree with that as well. The president of Pew, that's the research organization that did this, the Pew Research Center, Andrew Kohut, said that about 60% of African Americans surveyed said blacks often face discrimination when they applied for jobs or looked for housing. Just 20% of whites agreed with the employment assessment of blacks and 27% with the housing. Well, I agree that that's true. I disagree with whites. I will tell you the reason I think that people discriminate this way, and it's not fair, but I think this is the reason, is because people stupidly see somebody who's black and they assume that this is going to be somebody who's on welfare, or this is going to be somebody who's got a subprime mortgage, or this is going to be somebody who can't pay his bills or won't pay his bills or won't get a job. And that's the reason. It's wrong, but I think that's the reason that it happens. And really, you should just look at everybody's application and check everybody's credit, and whoever's good, you should just give them the apartment, for God's sake. But we all know how that works. Says here, one result of shifting views on individual responsibility may be changes in blacks' attitudes toward immigrants. In 1986, 74% of blacks said they would have more economic opportunities if there were fewer immigrants. Today, 48% feel that way. Most blacks and whites who participated in the poll agreed that immigrants tended to work harder at low-wage jobs than workers of their own groups. On the topic of diverging values, 44% of blacks polled in 1986 said they saw greater differences created by class than by race. Today, that figure has grown to 61%, and of course that's true. I mean, if only when you watch NBA players, NFL players, Oprah Winfrey, and others living the high lifestyle, hip-hoppers. I mean, you know very well that if somebody creates something interesting, they're going to make a fortune, and then they're going to live the very same lifestyle other rich people live. It's the way it is. Ugh. Says the feeling holds for blacks with less than a high school education. 57% of those surveyed said middle-class blacks are more like middle-class whites than they are like poor blacks. The values of the bottom and the top are different, Kohut said. Overall, the survey found that there has been a convergence of values held by blacks and whites. For instance, a majority of both groups say that rap and hip-hop music have had a negative influence on society. Kohut said blacks and whites have become more culturally integrated, and therefore less affluent blacks feel more estranged. The survey also found that pessimism about economic prospects has grown significantly among blacks. Fewer than half of those polled, 44%, said they expected life to get better. 20 years ago, 57% had said they thought life would improve. Of course, that could also mean life is pretty good right now. Right? I mean, it doesn't mean life is terrible. Like, how could my life get any better? I think about this myself. If you polled me and you asked me, could life get any better? I would say no. Life is not going to get better. That doesn't mean I'm a pessimist. That means I'm happy. I like my life. Why in the world would I expect things to get better? And you know, I don't think they could be any better. There's a lot of people who feel that way about their lives. They're happy. They're happy with their families. They're happy with their kids. They're happy with their job. Maybe you can't automatically assume that's pessimism. Some are pessimistic. Anyway, those are very interesting statistics. The story goes on. It's a big, long front-page story in the Los Angeles Times. But it kind of tells us an awful lot about the topic we were just talking about. The fact is that I do believe that black people who have succeeded in business or have succeeded at their jobs or live in middle-class neighborhoods and own homes, have a stake in what's going on, are much less negative and do have the same value as other middle-class people of any race. I think it's true. And it must be becoming more and more obvious that the losers in our society are people of all colors who simply refuse to participate in the world where we get educations and we have careers or at least good jobs, where we don't have babies until we're at least 18. I don't care what color you are. I think these values make sense to an awful lot of people who are successful. The people who are unsuccessful, I don't care what color they are a bunch of morons. We talk to enough white morons who call in here all the time. I'm 17, I got problems with my baby mama. These white people calling in saying it. I don't care what color you are. You know, if you are having babies as a teenager, cranking them out, not married, no job, no education, you're going to be a big loser, a failure. That's it. We have failures of all colors in this country. Those who work hard, get educations, work on their careers, those people succeed. You know what? This is a great country, and you really can do anything you want to do, no matter what color you are. Jesus Christ, if Oprah Winfrey doesn't prove that, I don't know what does. So I'm wondering your reaction to this, especially piggybacked onto that the show we did about whether racism is responsible for blacks not moving ahead. Is there racism? Sure there is. Is it wrong? Yes. Is the primary reason that African Americans who are not financially successful, is the reason for that because of racism? Not only do I not think so, but now we see a majority of blacks feel the same way I do. So we had taken calls just from blacks. I'll take calls from all comers here. I'd like to get your opinion on this subject.
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866.
I want to talk first about the 167-pound 9. I don't buy that for a minute.
No, I don't either.
I think you've got to be drugly. You've got to be drunk and ugly to get her later on in the evening.
Drugly.
It's the Tom Leykis Show.
97.1 Free FM. SoCal's FM talk station.
It's the Tom Leykis Show. 1-800-5800-TOM. That's our telephone number. This ends up being a follow-up to another show we did talking about complaints by some African Americans that they're not getting ahead because of racism. And now we see a new survey that says that even blacks, a majority of American blacks, blame individual failings, not racial prejudice, for the lack of economic progress by lower-income African Americans. Let's say hello here to Bill on the Tom Leykis Show.
Tom, how you doing, man? Love the show.
I'm okay, Bill.
Hey, I just wanted to say this racism thing, it's slowly fading away. It's definitely an individual thing. Some people just like to sit on their asses. Other people want to go to work and make something of themselves. I think it's a generation thing. For example, my grandmother, the grandmothers of, I think, everybody I know that's white, like me, they just have racism bred into them. They throw the N-word out like it's nothing. You know, you see them walking down the street, they'll make some kind of rude comment. And I just think that's slowly going away.
I don't know if it's completely going away, but I do believe in terms of getting jobs and keeping them, I think companies are hiring the best people for the job. I do believe that no matter what color you are, if you've got the best credentials for most jobs, you're going to get them.
Hell yeah, I agree with you. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in there. Blow me up, Tom.
Here you go, Bill. It's 1-800-5800-TOM. That's our telephone number. David on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, Dad?
Doing okay, son?
Yeah, let's jump into this here, and let's talk about financial income based per capita household and who can afford to have children. And if you look at it in that perspective, there's a lot of, now I'm not racist, but there's a lot of minorities out there, whether they be Hispanic or black, just popping out those kids. Just popping them out. And that really pisses me off. They can't afford it. And
well, first of all, let's start with Hispanics for a moment, okay? Because Hispanics have the highest birth rate in America.
Yeah.
But I don't think that, from what I see, where I live, I'm not seeing a lot of Latinos on welfare. They work 2, 3, and 4 jobs when necessary. And honestly speaking, we all know that the people who are on welfare, the largest number of people on welfare are white.
That's true.
So, I mean, all these stereotypes about who's on welfare and who isn't, lots of people aren't even getting welfare anymore. They were thrown off the welfare rolls in the Clinton years because of laws that were passed back then.
Yeah.
And honestly speaking, I don't think most people know who's on welfare and who isn't.
That's very true. But would you agree with me that there's a lot of people out there having children that can't afford to have children?
Yes, but they're people of all colors. I talk to them all the time.
Oh, and I listen all the time, so I know as well. But looking in the black community or the Hispanic community, it sure does seem, unless you go over to some trailer trash, you see white folks having 20 kids. But for the majority of it, it seems like, sounds racist, but it's blacks and Hispanics.
Well, no, but I do believe there's a difference because, number one, having children out of wedlock, that's the statistic that we were referring to the other day, that the group that's having more children out of wedlock than any is black women.
Yes.
But that doesn't comment on whether they can afford them or not afford them. And Hispanics, while they have a high birth rate, they're not necessarily out of wedlock.
This is true.
Okay. So, and by the way, just because you've had a kid out of wedlock doesn't necessarily mean you can't afford to raise the kid. Some people can. But the question is whether a father's influence is going to help them or not help them. I happen to believe a father's influence is critical.
Absolutely critical.
And you shouldn't be having babies if you can't find somebody to be the father of your kids.
I agree 100%. Now, is that...
I don't care what color you are.
50% of blacks in the jails? Is that a coincidence because they're all coming from broken households?
Well, look, you can argue it two ways with that. You could say, yes, it's because of broken households. You could also argue that there's a certain amount of discrimination out there. Look at the number of black men who were on death row that were freed when DNA evidence became freely available.
Yes.
So you can look at it any number of ways. And the bottom line here is I have no interest in getting people all flailing around about racism and freaking out. What I'm interested in is that everybody of any color in this country realize that they can become anything they want to be, and they can do anything they want to be, and they can be as rich as they want to be if they're willing to, A, not have babies, B, take risks, C, get an education. If you're willing to do those things, you will succeed. I don't care what color you are. And what's interesting is that an increasing number of African Americans agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I completely agree. It makes total sense to me. Now, what do you think of if the government stepped in and wouldn't allow people, if you could financially prove that you weren't capable of supporting a family, for the government to step in and say, no, you're not allowed to have children? What are your points of view on that?
Well, I mean, although I know it will never happen in a million, billion years, I don't know about having the government giving people surgery or things like that. I don't think I feel good about that. I do feel good about the idea that we apply the same standards to people having babies who are not getting a divorce as we do to people who are getting divorced when we determine custody. When two people get divorced, the judge gets in there and decides whether or not people can afford that baby, whether it's a good environment for the baby. I think we should apply the same standards to people when they give birth, whether or not they're married.
Absolutely.
Of all colors.
It should be an application to have a child.
And I think, I don't care what color you are, if you live in an apartment that is crawling with roaches and rats, if you can't afford to pay the bills, you shouldn't be having babies. And if you are, I think the government ought to just swoop in there and your kid goes to a foster home. That's it till you get your act together.
Act together or just nip it in the bud, and you'd have to fill out an application to even have a child.
I don't think the government will ever do that, but I understand where you're coming from. Theo, on the Tom Leykis Show, hello.
How you doing, Tom?
I'm great, Theo.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Thank you.
I had to jump in on this. African American male, 44 years old. My mom had 12 kids. I'm gonna break it down. My sister is a doctor, got her own practice. My other sister is an IRS tax agent. 3 sisters are teachers. My mom and dad are teachers. My brother is a lab technician. My other brother is a truck driver. My other brother is myself, a pest control technician. Everybody in my family, we all know what it is in the neighborhood is you just got to step your game up. Going to the library is free. Reading the newspaper is free. Education is not free, but if you put yourself in a position to get education, you will. I did 20 years in the military. My education was free. I'm in a job now in 7 years. I've had a raise every year that I've had this job. I drive a big gas-guzzling SUV, but you know what? I don't care because I can put gas in it. I'm not complaining about anything about my life. And you know what? My motto is not the white man's fault. That's old. That's old. We take the 60s. It's not the white man's fault. It's your fault where you are today based on what you did yesterday. Simple as that, period. Exclamation point.
So how do you feel when you see the rabble-rousers, and you know who the rabble-rousers are, out there claiming to be leaders of something called the black community, picketing, protesting, threatening, whatever? How do you feel about that?
Well, what happens after the picketing and protesting is all gone? They go back to their homes, the ones that live in the hills, a little bit above me, back to their homes, burning their fireplaces, smoking their cigars, watching the big screen TVs, and not really caring about what's going on with the guy on the bottom.
Right.
Because I'm not going to let you get in my way of my friendship with the people that I know. And I was thinking about this just the other day. I was sitting in the park, and I was saying, all these people that live in the mountains and the hills over here, Ladera Heights, I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out, Ladera Heights, Windsor Hills. I'm calling you guys out. You guys living over here, tell me if you really think about the people that's below Crenshaw. Below Crenshaw and Slauson when they're out there doing their hustling. Tell me you really care about those people. I bet you don't, because they're not at the same economic basis that you are. So rich people can get along better if they're together as opposed to a rich person living in a poor neighborhood. I can guarantee you that. They don't have the same problems.
And I think rich people of all colors get along great.
Of course they do. Of course they do. If I'm sitting at Wilmington eating strawberries with the guy next to me, we are both on the same level. He don't care. He doesn't care how I got there, but I'm sitting next to him at Wilmington eating strawberries. He doesn't care how I got there.
That's right.
We're just sitting there just chilling, just kicking it. If I saw Tom Leykis at a party somewhere, and we're talking about the show or whatever, we're talking about mashing on some females, we're on the same level.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, because really, as I have always said, the only color in America is green.
That's it. That's the only color that people understand.
Or care about.
And you're right, that's the only color that people care about. If I can't make my company money, guess what? I'm gone. If I can't step my game up in the neighborhood, let's just say, okay, I was driving a Volkswagen, and I want to be in this big-ass SUV that I'm driving. Well, guess what? I better hump my butt a little bit more to get out of this Volkswagen to drive my SUV. Now, I'm in an SUV, but I want a Cadillac Escalade. I got to hump my butt to get my Escalade. And I'll do it, and I'll do it legally. I can't go to jail for it, because in this country, you can be wherever you want to be. If you want to be on the corner holding a sign, say, I'm hungry, I'll work for food, then go over there next to that guy that's selling those oranges. You guys get together and sell oranges together. But you won't do that because that's below your standards. But at the same time, you will stand on the street corner and hold a sign in your hand so much you work for food. But I bet that guy over there finished selling all those oranges, have more money in his pocket before at the end of the day than you will just standing there holding a sign. Let's keep it real.
Good points, Theo. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate the call. That's good. 1-800-5800-TOM is our telephone number. Kirsten on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Kirsten.
How are you?
Do you care?
I do, Tom. I love your show. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, that's great. I'm doing great.
I actually agree with everything you're saying. I'm a 32-year-old African-American, married female, and I actually get along better with my white counterparts who are as educated as I am. I have master's degrees. And a lot of the poor African-Americans that I hang out with or that know me always call me a sellout, or they seem to think that I'm better than them. All because I strictly believe in education.
Wait a minute. They think you're better than them, or they think that you think you're better than them?
Well, they think that I think that I'm better than them.
There we go.
So I agree with everything you're saying. I think color has absolutely nothing to do with it. I think a lot of African Americans use that as an excuse. And there you have it. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you, Tom. Take care.
You too. Appreciate the call.
1-800-5800-TOM.
I am a slut and proud to admit it.
The Tom Leykis Show.
97.1 Free FM. SoCal's FM talk station.
from Hollywood. It's the Tom Leykis Show at 1-800-5800-TOM. Talking about a new survey. It's on the front page of the Los Angeles Times that says that a majority of black Americans blame individual failings, not racial prejudice, for the lack of economic progress by lower-income African Americans. I'll talk to people of all colors. What do you think about this? 1-800-5800-TOM is our telephone number. Anthony on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom, how's it going?
Doing great.
You know, I think it amazes me sometimes. I listen to some of the callers that call in, the level of ignorance. I'm an African-American male, 32 years old, and I've learned, you know, over the years that, you know, the rate of having babies, you know, women having babies that with fathers not around, welfare, it has nothing at all to do with race. It's all about economics. Like you said, you know, I make a good living. I have an MBA, and, you know, what I do in my life, what I make in my life is up to me. And I look around at my friends, my family, you know, none of us are having babies out of wedlock. None of us are on welfare. I live a middle-class existence. And that's what you find. If you live a middle-class existence, people around you, regardless of their race, are probably going to have the same, you know, standards of living and morals as you do. It's like you said, you're wealthy. I mean, how often do you see people that make millions of dollars a year, you know, having the same issues as people that don't have that kind of money? It has nothing to do with your race. How do you find black people that are rich? You know,
of course.
You know, having babies. I mean, I don't. It just bugs me when I hear that. I don't understand what people where they're getting their information from.
I totally agree with you.
You know, it's funny. You know, I remember when I was in undergrad, and I remember just hearing some of the comments about you know, about blacks, and it was around that time before they got rid of affirmative action in schools, and you know, a lot of the preferences getting in school were based on race. And I remember just listening to some people, and it's like they get so upset and they get so enraged with race and these issues that they forget all logic. You know, you can't put a whole group of people into one boat based on their race. There are lots of different kinds of black people. We're not all the same way. We don't
of course.
We don't all act the same. We're all different. And I hate when people want to put us in one small box, like, and that's you. That's black. You know, you guys all eat watermelon. You guys all eat chicken. You guys don't get educated. Like, that's, I mean, we're not all the same. You know, it just, one of your callers was calling in earlier and talking about, you know, women, it's all Latinos and blacks having the kids. It's like you said, Tom, most of the people on welfare aren't black or Latino. But people don't want to hear that. It's like they don't want to listen to the knowledge and the facts.
I've been stating that fact for years. It doesn't stop people from calling in and stating the opposite.
It's like you said, Tom. I think, you know, a lot of people, stupid, you know, to me, ignorance is a matter of education. And a lot of people calling in, I would venture to guess they aren't very educated with some of the comments that they make. Have you already noticed that people who tend to be wealthy or more educated don't tend to have a lot of these race issues? Have you ever noticed that?
Well, I think that's true.
I mean, if you go to a lot of campuses where people are highly educated, wealthy, they know it's all about money. It's all about knowledge. It's all about what you know. It's not about race. But, you know, the poorer you are, I don't know, the less you are one of the haves. It seems like the more...
Well, here's the bottom line, because I come from, you know, white trash neighborhood, and my family had a lot of white trash in it. So let me just give you an idea of how this works, okay? People who are unsuccessful at anything, they have to find somebody to blame other than themselves.
Exactly.
People who are not willing to work as hard as the rest of us aren't willing to take the risks that some of us do. People who are not willing to get an education. They resent the people who do.
You know, it's funny. I completely agree with that. You know, it's like, you know, I went to undergrad. I spent 2 years in the MBA program, and it's been very difficult for me, very difficult on my family. But that's the sacrifice I made to get an education to get farther along in life. But it's amazing to me the people out there that will tell you. I mean, you probably hear this too. You know, they tell you that your success is you're lucky, it's all your circumstance, but they forget the hard work that goes into making a successful person. Anything that's good in life doesn't come easy. It takes work, and it takes hard work and perseverance. And I'm glad to see these numbers, especially for blacks, going up with in terms of, you know, realizing that their fate is a matter of themselves and not a matter of some other external factor in their lives or society. It's all about you and what you do.
And by the way, once more people of all colors start to understand this, there will be less poverty. There will be less people who are uneducated. There will be less people who can't put food on the table.
Yeah, I completely agree. I hope that the callers out there, the listeners out there, just realize that, you know, especially some of the ones, like the one guy called in and he said that he said that it's generational. He said that, you know, a lot of the white grandmothers out there, you know, they were raised during that time when they're using the N-word. And, you know, I just hope that, you know, I like to think that stuff is fading away. It isn't getting passed along, and people are really being judged based on their character. People are being educated. They're not basing their views on a whole for people on what they see on TV and what they mean and what they see on the internet and what they see in commercials. You know, it's amazing the amount of education people get from TV. You know, they don't want to read. You know, if you watch TV, you're going to get the completely wrong opinion and the wrong view of people. And I really don't want people to be out there just continuing these perpetuating these stereotypes and passing those along, you know, generation to generation. Because I like to think that this stuff is going away.
Yep, I'm on your side, Anthony, and I really appreciate the call. Thank you very much. It's 1-800-5800-TOM. That's our telephone number. Jose on the Tom Leykis show. Hello.
How's it going, Tom? Love you. Love your show.
Doing great.
I'm a sophomore 101 Leykis student.
Very good.
Yes, sir. You know what I believe? I believe that this racism thing is not about racism. It's about white supremacy. It's the belief that people have that they're a black person or Latino. They believe that they're not equal to the white person. So they don't bother in following up their education. And it's also, in the communities, is also you have these white people or people, even black people, who don't want to invest into the black communities because they feel that they won't be up or that they won't be able to succeed in this, you know, because of their color or because, you know, they don't have that identity, that strong identity. And, you know, the black and Latino communities, they're being divided. They're being divided. There's some people that they grow up and they become successful and they don't give back to the communities.
Why do they Why do they owe the community anything?
They do because you know what? They came from the community. It takes a village to raise a child.
No. You know what? That's a Hillary Clinton line. That's certainly not any old philosophy. I don't think you owe the old community anything. You know, I grew up in a very poor community.
Right.
And what did the community do for me while I lived there? Mugged me, stole my things, threatened me. I don't owe them anything.
That's right, but you know what?
I worked to get out of there, and I don't ever want to go back there.
That's true, but you are giving back to the community because if I was listening to you, I won't be in school. I won't be, thinking that, I'm in love with my high school girlfriend, so you are giving back to the community.
Well, because I sit in front of a microphone, but you won't see me going back to my old neighborhood. You won't see me going back and thanking everybody for all the support I got because I didn't get any support. All I want to do was get out.
That's right. That's right. But, listen, it's not when you present yourself as confident as you know who you are, and you're not divided, you're not torn, and other people see that, they're going to recognize that. And, and they're going to follow it. Whether if it's a black or Latino or a white person, they're going to respect that. And if you see more black people and more Latinos that are there, they know who they are inside and don't need to, thank a black person or thank a white person, they're going to say, you know what, I'm going to be like that. How did you get like that? Through education. And there are some people that don't want to invest in these lower communities because of the crime. Because what's the use?
Isn't that a good reason?
Yeah, it's not a good reason at all.
No, I said that is a good reason.
No, it's not, because you know what you're saying? You're reinforcing white supremacy.
It has nothing to do with white or black or anything.
No,
I mean, the fact is, if I build a store in a poor community,
right,
and it's the victim of riots, fire, theft, why would I want to rebuild that store? Why would I want to go there in the first place?
That's right. That's right. You got to have people behind you that before you go in there, they're going to say, you know what, don't worry, we got your back. Don't worry. You know, we got police officers here. We got people that put in more money. They're going to go right next to you. They're going to be your neighbors. And, you know, these are people who, you know, who have power, who have political power. You know, when you had that, you're going to say, okay, yeah, I got no problem doing that, you know. You have no problem doing that. You have more of that in the community. And you know what? This whole racism stops because it's about, you know what? It's about identity. You know, I'm equal to you. And a lot of people in the black and Mexican community don't feel that way. You know?
Absolutely. Well, I understand that, but again, I don't care what color. But I'm saying I don't care what color somebody is.
Right.
You do not owe anything to the community where you came from. That is just it's a false idea because the neighborhood where you came from did nothing but try to tear you down and say, you know, you're not, who do you think you are? You're better than us, trying to get an education, trying to make more money. Who do you think you are? There's not a lot of support coming from a lot of poor communities.
Absolutely correct.
And I grew up in one.
Correct.
So I know.
That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. But you know what happens is when you become successful, everyone takes pride in that. And you know what they do? They try to knock you down. 100% your family tries to knock you down, especially in black and Latino communities. And they try to tell you you're a sellout. But, you know, when you become successful, they take pride in that. And you know what? There's someone else that's going to be right behind that's going to say, you know what, I want to be like that. And there's enough.
It's one thing to help your family or your friends or the specific individuals who were supportive of you over the years. But I got to tell you something. Most poor communities do nothing but rape and rob and pillage, and I grew up in the worst in the country. And I'm telling you, I'm giving nothing back to that community. As far as I'm concerned, it can burn.
Yes, but you are giving back. Indirectly, you are giving back.
I understand what you're saying.
People are following me. People are, you know, I'm in education because of you. People are following, you know, when you know who you are, you know, as an
But in that sense, I'm giving to every community because anybody with a radio can hear what I'm saying wherever they are.
Right. Right. But, you know, you have television, too. You have people that are on City Hall, you know, that don't need a radio, but they can do it, you know, through money. You know, that's, I think, the biggest factor. Everyone's talking about green. You know, that's what it is. It's about money. It's about, you know, getting them early, you know, getting it right early, giving them money to the community, to the right people, and you know, put through education. And not saying, you know what, oh, this lady or this guy, you know, he has 12 children. He's not going to succeed, you know. It's not about that. It's not about having 10 kids or not. It's about, you know what, this person, you know, if he keeps up his grades, give him a grant. You know, it's not about like, oh, okay, you know, this person, he's African-American. It has nothing to do with that. It's the people who do not believe that they're going to succeed that don't succeed. They don't follow through because of this belief that, you know, well, you know, let me do drugs. I got nothing else. You know, I got nothing else. You know, I got 2 strikes on me. What am I going to do?
Yep. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Hey, I got to run, but I thank you very much for the call, Jose. Our email address is my name. It's Tom@blowmeuptom.com. You got that? Tom@blowmeuptom.com, or visit our website where our show streams live at blowmeuptom.com. Click on the Listen Live button at blowmeuptom.com.
It's the Tom Leykis Show.